Man, that stream goes. Wait. All right. 1 second. How's that? Is it looking? Okay. All right. All righty. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. We got a little bit of fluff for you today. Nothing crazy. I actually had a longer, more elaborate video planned out. I might kind of start getting into the topic, but I won't go too far. By the way, yesterday someone asked me to look into MMT, and that's what I've been doing all day. And let me tell you, not impressed, but save that video for another day. So we're here to talk about Andrew Yang's new gig. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts. I haven't looked at any content from anyone else. I really try to make these kind of videos just as soon as possible without thinking about or without hearing anyone else's opinions on these things, because I'm always curious to find out how I'm going to feel about this decision in a few months. So the first thing I'll say, if you guys are not familiar, Andrew Yang, well, let me move this out of the way. Oh, you don't have my window up there? Hold on. Something's weird. Wait a minute. Where's my little window? Oh, it's over here. Okay, 1 second. All right. So if you are not familiar, let's bring that down here. Andrew Yang announced this morning, or at least CNN announced this morning, that he is taking his talents officially to CNN. Now, what we don't know currently is whether or not this is a permanent position. I suspect that this is a very temporary arrangement where he is going to be just kind of, looking at these remaining debates following the election cycle through the end of November, and we'll kind of go from there. I don't think he's going to be a full-time commentator. This is just my suspicion. But as a member of the YANGGANG, someone who's followed the Yang media blackout, the real concern in this election cycle was Andrew Yang simply not having that presence. You know what I mean? I mean, literally not having a physical presence, and to the point where he was being completely omitted from graphics, and that is probably the most damaging thing that can happen, because as we've talked, it takes about 7 times for someone to become familiar with something before they're able to before they're willing to make a sale, before they're willing to make a purchase, and in this case, before they're willing to vote. And when you limit the number of times you see a face like Andrew Yang, especially an Asian face, when it comes to politics, very difficult for people to, eventually make that decision to pull the trigger on an Andrew Yang vote. So to me, this is a win, mostly because I believe this is a very temporary situation. It's going to cover him through probably the election. I imagine he'll go on and do whatever he plans on doing later on. This isn't his big announcement. He'll probably end up, I have no real reason to think anything otherwise. He could end up in someone's cabinet. But again, my belief is that no Democrat can beat Donald Trump anyway, so I don't think he'll end up in anyone's cabinet. So it'll just be really interesting to see where we go from here. I think this is a good move. I think this will solve the problem of getting his face out, getting him the recognition. I don't expect that he's going to be able to put his policies out there every single chance he gets or constantly talk about UBI. That's probably not why they're bringing him up there. They're not bringing him up there for him to go ahead and sell his platform. I mean, he's obviously no longer, well, actually, technically, he can still get votes, but he's no longer running officially. So I don't think that's it. But this does help him to get some more screen time with the Democratic base, the TV watchers, and that's really what we're going to segue into in a bit. The TV watchers, the low information voters, the people who aren't really looking for the substance that it's going to take in order for people to become informed voters. And, I think this just all in all is a good move for right now, but we'll really have to see. The big thing for me that I don't love about this is that I thought this would be a great opportunity for Andrew Yang to go, if he's not going to be, or if he is going to be involved in politics right now, I'd like to see him doing the full media circuit. Like, I want to see him on the morning shows. I want to see him on Fox. I want to see him on just every different, I want him to be put up against other minds. I want his views to be expressed against the entire spectrum, because I feel like, one, his policies don't have to be through Andrew Yang. They can, any candidate can adopt Andrew Yang Humanity First platform and run on that. So I don't think his ideas have to be relegated to just Andrew Yang, the man. And that is kind of, I think, a loss for us, especially considering, like the VAT is something that I think just tremendously helps out so many politicians who are looking to get things done. When you don't have a funding mechanism, it just makes them seem almost impossible. But bringing that into the conversation, I think, is really important. It's something that's been adopted all across the world. I think they said like 100 plus major 100 plus major countries have a VAT, and it's just something that we don't have. So if we had that going in other places, or if we started to implement some form of small tax, I'll give you, for example, here in Oklahoma City, we have I don't even know what it's called, but we have a tax. I think it's like 1 penny. It might be a little bit more than that now, but if you've ever visited Oklahoma City, like pretty much everything that we have here downtown was paid for by that 1 cent tax. It paid for our new park. It paid for the baseball stadium. It paid for a couple of other things, a bunch of stuff from before I got here. The water canal, like we have like a little canal like by San Antonio. I just think, taxes on the middle class, on purchases, is the way to go if you need to get money. After looking into MMT a little bit, I understand the theory of what they're suggesting, but I do believe that our economy is set up a certain way, and you just simply can't disregard the way we've been running it up until now and say, okay, we're just going to do this because we want to create some new government program. I don't think it's going to work quite that way. But introducing a funding mechanism would be tremendous. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to have that conversation because I don't imagine they're going to let him go on there and talk about why his ideas were better than Elizabeth Warren's per se. But FaceTime, very important. As I said, the biggest difference between Andrew Yang and Donald Trump when he entered into the political arena was that even though Donald Trump was not a politician, he was somebody who we were all very, very familiar with. We had seen him, for years and years and years. We've known that he had a political opinion. He was someone that people, really looked to for, we'll say, an opinion, for advice. Having never held office, but he still maintained that position as somebody who could be a thought leader. So him becoming president isn't completely far-fetched, but Andrew Yang coming from complete obscurity. I mean, literally a year ago, most people did not know who Andrew Yang was, and here he is now in a position where he's actually, putting up legitimate numbers, actually polling in a race for the president of the United States is still incredibly admirable. But he needs more screen time if he plans to run in 2024. He needs to become more recognizable. He needs to become someone that people look to and say, you know what, I wonder what Andrew thinks. Like, that's going to be the thing that's going to propel him to the next level. So I will just briefly just give you guys his comment. Very minimum. He said he's excited to announce, I'm excited to join CNN to help shed light on the election and the candidates' experiences. Yang wrote in a tweet following the announcement, learned a lot these past few months, and I'm glad to contribute to the public discussion. He'll appear on the network in his new capacity later Wednesday, he added. So Wednesday, being today, is today the debate? So I don't know how that's going to work. I think he said he might be live tweeting the debate. Don't get me lying. But the first step of all this is that I'll tell you this, CNN recognized the power of Andrew Yang's voice and his interest and the fact that he can create these viral moments and the fact that people care about what he thinks and they want him to be engaged. They want to hear his opinion. So for CNN, this is about ratings. I believe this is the first part of the domino that helped Donald Trump earn $2 billion in free media when he was running in 2015. And if Andrew Yang can continue that momentum, if he can bring in those voices and those people to be following Andrew Yang's Twitter feed to make sure their thoughts are in line with Andrew, or they just want to know what Andrew Yang thinks during the debate, that is going to be incredibly valuable for Andrew Yang going forward. It's going to give him the leverage that he needs to maintain his voice and ultimately be able to get acceptance into the Democratic Party. This is where we need him to be. Like, we need him there. Now, if he's still there in a year and a half and he's the guy they just call in for Asian issues or something like that, yeah, that's a total fail. But if he's doing this for the next, 6 months or so, 10 months, 9 months, and then he goes on and runs for mayor in New York or whatever, great. Or there's a lot of options for this guy. He can go become a professor. He could write some books. He could, do some debates. But I eventually want to see him back on the conservative outlets. I think he really thrives in those environments. I mean, he knows he's going to be attacked. We've seen him on Tucker Carlson. We've seen him on, the names, the Ben Shapiro's. Like, I love watching those interviews because in that forum, you see people who would typically look at any Democrat and laugh and think that this person is totally insane, be open and willing to have a conversation with Andrew Yang because his ideas are simply brilliant and they're well thought out and they're data driven, quite in line with most of what the conservative agenda is. So those are my thoughts on this. I appreciate you guys. Somebody gave me a super chat. Give me 1 second. I will acknowledge that. Susan Hunter says, Yang needs recognition. This is better than ads. This is way better than ads because it's free. Plus, Andrew Yang needs to get some money. I mean, he's been running for way too long. Who knows how his family is doing right now? I don't want him to have to give in order to maintain living. Like, you need your leaders to be well compensated. This allows them to speak up for the people. And in this capacity, I imagine he's getting a nice chunk of change to do this gig, and hopefully it's just a short-term thing. It'll help him with his recognition. And overall, it'll help him become the president, the candidate that we need him to be in 2024. So